Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Brock Beard from lastcar.info coming at you after the conclusion of the Monday rain-delayed race here at Dover. Figure we go ahead and just jump into the discussion here for today. I figure a lot of you guys probably be watching this on tape delay here, but we'll definitely have the discussion here. For those of you just watched it live there, Chase Elliott, pending, of course, the results of post-race inspection, being your winner today in the Napa car, his first win of the season. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. with a spirited runner-up finish there, driving for JTG Daugherty Racing. Good to see. A little bit of controversy on the final lap as Martin Truex Jr. Tangled with Ross Chastain on the final lap, costing Truex a decent finish there. He dropped back, I believe, where was it, to the 12th place finish at the end there. With Chastain continuing his strong season run with the No Stopping Us Now Pitbull paint job there, finishing in the third spot. Christopher Bell in fourth, and Alex Bowman rounding out the top five there. So, interesting race. Definitely one of the more exciting Dover races that I've seen in many years. Typically, I think, again, there seemed to be streams laggy here. Well, that's not good. Hopefully we'll have hopefully it'll pick up here in a little bit. We'll try to, if it gets too lagged in the behind there, you could just have this be a podcast there in the meantime. But we'll keep going. I may sound a bit off there too. I apologize. I've had a cold here since last week. I've been trying to come off it here since then, so my voice is going to sound a little bit off here too. So that might be more the issue there. But we'll get through this as best as possible here. Might be a bit of a shorter show here today. But we'll go through that as well. But again, yes, Christopher Bell in the fourth spot, Alex Bowman rounding out your top five. Some good finishers there. Kyle Larson coming back from a spin to finish in the sixth spot. Kyle Busch does not win on a race that was on his birthday, at least postponed till it this time, finishing in the seventh spot. Chris Buescher in eighth, Kevin Harvick ninth, and Eric Jones in the 10th spot. Just on the outside of it there, Justin Haley had a fine run for a lot of the middle to late stages here. Couldn't quite get the top 10 there, but finishing in the 11th spot for him, just ahead of Truex there. But again, as I was saying, though, solid Dover race. I think it was pretty competitive, given that this has been one of the weakest tracks, really, for the Gen 6 cars in the previous era. I think it's good to actually see some decent competition there. Tire wear was certainly a big issue, but not to a catastrophic degree, like we would see at like Indianapolis, for example. But it was good to see that there was some real challenge there. The drivers and teams had to really work out some strategy to try to stay competitive in this one. And then ultimately, Chase Elliott, of course, getting his first win of the season, certainly going to be a popular one going forward, again, pending the results of post-race inspection. At the other end of the field, the first part of this race yesterday on Sunday before the rain came in, the first 78 laps of this were between car number 78 and the 77 of Josh Bilicki. BJ McLeod, of course, being in the 78 again this week. Mechanical issues have continued to be a problem for the 78. We saw this very similar, I think there was a problem with the steering back at Martinsville that dropped them out in the early laps of that race where not much was happening. But then you had Josh Bilicki that was sent to a backup car after Spire Motorsports, his primary entry, collided with the inside wall. Very hard hit there. There were reports that he was overusing the brakes on the car and was having trouble keeping up the pace. He did end up finishing the race, last car under power, 19 laps down at the finish, the 32nd spot. Looked like it was going to be a battle between BJ and Josh for a lot of the distance of the race, but then attrition picked up very quickly after the race restarted. Austin Cindric bounced off the outside wall about the same time that his teammate Ryan Blaney got into Todd Gilliland and spun him out. Gilliland comes down pit road with very little damage. Cindric, however, has significant right side damage. A lot of repairs had to take place there. He ended up losing multiple laps. They were getting down to the last 20 seconds and the last 15 seconds of his crash clock. By the time he did leave his pit stall, NASCAR confirmed over the radio that he actually was not able to keep going. NASCAR saying that he was out under the damaged vehicle policy. So that was the end of his race. It took a few laps for that to get coordinated. And I don't think I can blame a team for really trying to continue on. I think it's very similar to freezing the field at the end of a race, especially on the final lap of the race. The driver's still in that mentality, and they're trying to keep going. I don't think they're willingly ignoring these calls for the damaged vehicle policy thing. I think it's just very hard with some of these rules to actually make that adjustment in mid competition, and I believe that was very much the case here with Cindric. But unfortunately, the result was the same. He completed about 104. He was going about 104 laps into the race. Had to come back down pit road again and drop out of the race there. So it was an unfortunate situation there for the number 2. Cindric's first last place finish in his Cup Series career. I believe his 18th series start. First time the number 2 has finished last since Brad Keselowski got his first ever last place finish 2 years ago at Michigan on August 9th of 2020 in that incident there. So very rare to see the number 2 finish last. I think even before that, you have to go back to Homestead and even the much older Gen 4 cars back then. So a very different time on that. But Cindric, of course, now your last place finisher, pending post-race inspection, his first last place run in a Cup Series points racer Daytona 500 winner. And we'll see how it goes on that. I mean, we'll I actually kind of had fun writing his biography. It's interesting to trace. The last time I'd really written about Cindric on the Last Car page was back when he was driving that number 60 car for the Roush Fenway team, and how much every driver in that car was just struggling, just having poor handling. And I remember Cindric being just at a loss for words that was like his last start in the 60, and felt like maybe that was an opportunity that had been squandered. But really, it was a situation that I think every driver that was in that car was just having a terrible time with it, and had a lot of early exits. Cindric had also finished last in the Daytona race that year. But then once he found his footing there, of course, with the Penske team, got to be a full-time driver, the 22, he very quickly turned things around, being able to win on the road courses, then break out and win on the ovals during his championship year. And then, of course, having a few good Cup races last season, even in his first Daytona 500, before coming back to the 500 this year to win it this year. So kind of an interesting story there. It was good to kind of boil that back down again. I think that's kind of another advantage to kind of having this be kind of the framework to talk about the last place finishers here. Excuse me. And certainly in Cindric's case, that was the situation there. Excuse me. Again, apologize. Still a little rough around the edges here, but definitely still doing the doing the work here. Goodness. Thank you so much for the super chat there, Michael Jensen. I saw your comment there. Nice for a Monday race, as I'm down with the sickness. Solid runs all day for Jones, Haley, and LaJoy. Too bad Priest got caught up on the last caution, pitting while green. Had a solid top 20 going. I did not follow that with Priest. I noticed he qualified very well. I didn't realize he was running that well in the race, but good to catch that there. Let's get the results here pulled up and kind of look at this. We're here with Priest finishing back in the 25th spot, 2 laps down at the end. Yeah, I mean, certainly costly at that point. Was he? If he was going for a top 20, I assume he was still on the lead lap. But hate it for him there in that situation there, especially since that was his first Cup start of the season. Dover is not a track I would typically recognize with him, but I think that it's a good turnaround there for him and the 15 team. So see what he can keep going there. Let's see, but absolutely, yeah, Michael. Thank you for bringing that up there, and definitely, yeah, for the thank you again for the super chat for sure. Yeah, hopefully Priest will have another start in the 15 pretty soon. I mean, we've seen him already dabble in the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series this year with the Stewart-Haas equipment. Had a decent run at Richmond, I think, a few weeks ago. I think that was good to see. But yeah, I'm hopeful that maybe, I hate that I missed what was happening there with the 15 at the end. I was actually, basically, once the last place battle was settled, I was kind of just enjoying just watching the race itself. I was very pleased with the battles for the lead and the tire situations, just the strategy there. It had a very old school feel to it. And even further back, I mean, you have to go way far back in Dover's history to have like some solid racing of that nature. It was one that I think the car tomorrow was just not conducive to it at all. I know Greg Biffle won a decent race here, I think 2008 or so, that had a good finish. And it was unfortunate. And again, on this side here, where you had just the chartered guys, it was still unfortunate that you had kind of a smaller field. But I think a lot of them were actually able to make the most of it there, and you had a pretty entertaining race with some comers and goers for sure. Denny Hamlin, for example, unbelievable. He had that loose wheel. That's going to be catastrophic for that team. Obviously, luckily they've already had their win at Richmond. But again, the roller coaster season that's had more downs than ups for him definitely continues. The loose wheel there, I would anticipate it's going to be the same penalty that they've handed everybody, whether it's been a rim failure or just a loose wheel. We saw AJ Allmendinger with loose wheel, and he was very upset in the garage area after what looked like to be, excuse me, an engine failure at the end. So yeah, it was kind of an interesting way that worked out. No, not no. It's not the pandemic. I'll tell you that. It is just a cold. My temperature's okay. Luckily, no issues with that. So, but I appreciate the concern. But yeah, definitely not that. Still going through some steps on that, but we're doing okay. I do have a whole thing of cough drops like right here, but you probably don't want to hear me. That's not going to come across very good on the microphone. So we'll work through this as best as possible, folks here. But we'll certainly do this. But yeah, again, the Dover, I think it was a good race. I think it was. I was thoroughly enjoying it. I thought it was very competitive. You got to be happy for Chase Elliott finally breaking through with the win. I didn't realize that not only had his teammates won before him this year, but they'd won multiple times. So that was certainly, I can imagine, as Clint Boyer illustrated during the broadcast, how frustrating that would certainly be. But that's the whole other story. Also surprising who also had struggles in this race. Kurt Busch spinning out of the back straightaway. Never was able to recover from that. Apparently had some damage to the splitter. Left him back in the running. He ends up 12 laps down in 31st. Tyler Reddick, his struggles continue after losing the Bristol dirt race with the contact from Chase Briscoe. He gets last week at Talladega. This week at Dover. Seems to just have constant tire failures. At one point, came in with 3 flat tires. Ends up finishing 10 laps down in 30th. Let's see. Ty Dillon had a tire go down at one point in the 27th spot. Ryan Blaney back there. Penske has just been hot and cold this year. And obviously with Cindric in the 2 being one of those here from this race. Different situation there with Blaney back in the 26th spot, 3 laps down. Austin Dillon 23rd, 2 laps down. William Byron, last car, 1 lap down in the 22nd spot, right behind Hamlin. The track was brutal, and again, I think as Jeff Gluck pointed out, I mean, this was over a 3-hour race. Imagine if you had a 500-mile race here and going well over 4 hours. This was a gauntlet, and I think it was engaging with the current car, and produced a solid competition there at the same time. So that was good to see. And good to see that it was a safe race too. Not that it was anything that it was too dangerous. I'm glad we didn't see any. I was worried a little bit coming into this race that the G-forces were going to be a real test of those aluminum wheels, because we saw back at Phoenix apparently that issue with the rim on Corey LaJoie's car. You think back to again the Daytona 500 with Justin Haley, but both at Talladega and in this race didn't see any apparent issues with rims fracturing. So maybe there was just a bad batch there, and this was something else to kind of work out. So that was good to see. Daniel Suarez back in the 14th spot there. I mean, he had a spin, but it was a good recovery there. As they mentioned in the broadcast, I mean, I'm glad that they showed some racing further back in the pack with people actually able to compete for spots further back in the lineup. But I think it'll be entertaining as the next few races here. Hopefully they keep showing battles back in the pack, because I think it'll show very well a track like Darlington next week, or maybe some of these other venues that are going to be coming up here. So we got that. Let's see here. We'll get into the. We'll talk about the Xfinity race as well. I really apologize for this, folks. We'll get through this as best I can here. All right. Okay. Let's see here. We have the Xfinity race. Oh yes, Rajah Caruth's last place run in the Xfinity race from on Saturday, not yesterday. Unfortunate deal from there, but I really want to give a shout out to Rajah again on the performance that he had out there. I thought the Xfinity race was thoroughly exciting. I mean, I watched it on a replay that night. I was feeling a bit better on Saturday, so I did some coverage there with the Sonoma Raceway there with Derek Cope, although pretty much had to cut that short there after a while because I was just feeling pretty rough after that, so I headed back after that. But by the time I got back there and covered the deal there with Caruth, I thought it was great how much he was just handling that car. Like whatever issue it was, if it was a shock, if it was a track bar or whatever, or if it's just that Dover track just being a complete handful. There was some great highlight reel clips that were showing up at the beginning there, and I hope that came across still in the article. I mean, nobody wants to finish last, and certainly the Alpha Prime team has been trying to kind of get their feet under them there after this new reorganization this year from Tommy Joe Martin's effort. But that was good to see. It was good to see. I think he gained a lot of fans there from just how much he was actually able to kind of to handle that car out there. And then all of a sudden, it just kind of went away, and that could happen to just anybody out there. So, that's the tricky part with covering last place deal. Sometimes it's a driver that maybe everybody's pulling for, or there's other stuff that's going on there behind the scenes. It'd be the same thing with like Parker Retzlaff or something like that. That's had a really good, start to this year, and in fact had a good another good run in this race, finishing in the 17th spot. There's a lot of good newcomers in the Xfinity Series, and I thought again, we saw quite a bit of it in the Cup race today, but we saw even more of it, I think, in the Xfinity race of just drivers. Not it doesn't have to be a crash every 5 seconds, but you have a situation where people are just squirrely and hanging on and just getting the best run they can. I thought it was really cool to see. So congratulations to Josh Berry on the win. Justin Allgaier, Ty Gibbs, Noah Gragson, Sam Mayer. Rounding out the top 5 there. Ryan Sieg getting into the top 10 after having to start in the back of the field there. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to really contend for the Dash for Cash, but still good to see there. So, but yeah, again, Rajah Caruth, your last place finisher there in the number 44. First last place run for the number 44 since Jeff Green in 2011. At Dover, that is, and the first 4 suspension issues since another Jeff Green finish in 2015. So we had that kind of situation there. John Hunter Nemechek, Bailey Curry, David Starr, and Mason Massey rounding out the bottom 5 in that situation there. Yeah, exactly. Oh, and I see your comment there too, Alex. Thank you for your super chat as well. Hendrick Motorsports owns Dover. They're always fast there. Absolutely. And you don't have to look back very far. Of course, they had the top 4 sweep last year, which was fantastic. And so that was good to see. No tires, just gas. Thank you for the sending the picture there from Rajah Caruth there on the from the Xfinity race there as well. I did make sure to credit you there in the article, so thank you very much for sending that. Anybody has anything from the Sunday or the Monday race, I guess, rather, from Cindric, definitely let me know. But in the meantime, we'll have that article set up there for you guys after the inspection results are completed today. So we'll see what happens. I have not watched the LW Wright thing on the Scene Vault yet, though, but I mean, I am absolutely floored by that. Big congratulations to Rick Houston and the folks over at the Scene Vault podcast, both Rick and Steve Wade over there. They're just a couple of hardworking guys, do a tremendous amount of work to keep the sports history alive. And this is, again, one of the most ongoing mysteries. I mean, we had the Speed Channel thing, or that shows my age. Fox Sports 1 did that segment on LW Wright a while back. I have no idea how they found him or how they got that reeled in. I cannot wait to listen to it. Hoping to check that up there pretty soon. So that's very much exciting. I'd highly recommend it, even though I haven't listened to it yet, but definitely give that a listen for sure. That'll be good. Other one thing, I know I got a couple comments on this here too. I definitely wanted to make sure to have the show here this week, one way or the other, to wear the Roland Ratzenberger shirt here. And also behind me, I have the Ayrton Senna hat up on the rack there as well. I know this particular weekend, very solemn for fans of Formula One. I definitely wanted to, as much as I'm not a big Formula One fan, I don't want to be disrespectful of the very real risks and history that those drivers have faced, and certainly the 1994 weekend being very significant in that sense. I was very profoundly touched by reading the book Fatal Weekend a few years ago, and chronicling what happened with Senna and Ratzenberger, and of course the documentary that came out, I believe it was in 2011, was just incredible there as well. So I was hoping to have this show back on May 1st on the actual anniversary, but then still on the 2nd. Definitely wanted to make sure to bring this both out there as well. So, again, I think one thing that I think the biggest reason I wanted to mark something with this as well, So I remember back in 1994 when it happened, when Senna's accident happened at Imola, Dale Earnhardt mentioned in the middle of Victory Lane that his heart went out to Senna's family, and showing a lot of respect between between the sports. And in my own, and although this is not nearly the same degree of gesture, I felt that with the show here, I felt that would be something to kind of tie in there, tie in there as well. Certainly did not count on having a cold here at the same time to articulate that a little better, but that's the case there. So let's see here. Anything else for the Cup race? Very impressed with Chris Buescher on his run there, finishing in the 8th spot after winning his first pole. It was good to see. I think we had good competition there out of the Roush Fenway Keselowski team. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen at Darlington, because it seemed like the Roush effort has really kind of struggled there in recent years. I mean, maybe they could turn things around, since Keselowski is usually pretty good at Darlington. They're going to be ones I'm going to be kind of watching in next week's race. The throwbacks, I know, are going to be a little bit off with the numbers in the wrong spot. I'm not totally crazy about that, especially Keselowski's with the Viagra scheme. It just doesn't work with the number not lined up with the graphics perfectly. But I don't know. I mean, maybe it'll look better on track. I've been trying to be more open-minded with stuff like that, but that would be another thing to kind of keep an eye on there too. But yeah, triple header weekend this next weekend, so that'll be exciting to follow as well. Looking back in the Xfinity results here, I saw Kyle Weatherman was really good in the early laps there, although his car seemed like it was a complete handful. He finished at the 27th spot, again for Jesse Iwuji's effort. So a decent finish out there. Again, maybe not the great finish that they would hope for, but I think that they're really trying to just develop their notebook and get into fields to begin with. Luckily, only had one car to beat in qualifying in that one. Brennan Poole, unfortunately, on the wrong side of that, which did keep him keeping the Mike Harmon team out of the field. But Jesse Iwuji's team, I think they need to keep Weatherman in there as much as they can to get the best notes they can, best runs they can, and especially for Weatherman, after running so well for Mario Gosselin through last year and in the first part of this year, it would be good to see him be able to kind of build on that. Or I guess more this year. So we'll see how things kind of shake out on that end. Let's see here. We talked about Ryan Sieg in the Xfinity race, and from all of that, let me get my notes. Where did I keep that on hand? Actually, I'll probably just open the floor here. If you guys have any other questions from the race weekend or other stuff that's happened in the racing world here this past week, I'll certainly do my best to kind of cover that at the same time. Big thanks as well. We have some other bonus content there on the website. Actually, a little bit of last place drama that worked out. I didn't realize that there was actually a last place swap there in the IndyCar race down the stretch, and our writer William Saki is actually working on that piece, so that'll be updated there with the correct last place one done there. I think NBC ended up showing a last place finisher, and then that position actually changed hands by the time it was posted on Racing Reference. So we'll get that worked out. I think that's going to be a different deal there too. But yeah, it was. I thought it was too bad, because I thought the article was actually quite good. But that's what always happens. It's like, I got this section on Cindric, and again, you could have a last place position swap there, and then you could just hang on to that and use it for a later race. So I think that's the situation there with that too. But no, William does good work with the IndyCar. He's kind of adjusting into the IndyCar rhythm with that stuff this year. I know it's outside the NASCAR realm, but he's really passionate about that, and so I hope you guys are enjoying that content there on the website as well. And then Ben Schneider's been doing more the ARCA side of things in recent weeks, and so we've had that content there at the same time. Let's see. Oh yeah, Jason. Nope. All right. Thank you. Take care, bud. If you had to head out there, but that's okay. I appreciate you stopping by. Thoughts on the broadcast? I thought the broadcast was fine. Nothing really stood out to me too much in the Cup broadcast, at least. I didn't watch all of the Xfinity broadcast. I kind of just did highlights after the last place deal there. But I didn't mind it too much. And I thought it was a decent crowd at the track that came back on Monday. I was worried that because we had such a good crowd on Sunday, but NASCAR just can't buy a break whenever they have a great crowd for something. I was glad that the Coliseum race at least had decent weather. I'm sure if it was at any other venue and it had that much buzz, it probably would have had the same issue with weather as they always seem to have. But still, a decent number of people seem to come back on this one. And I got to say, if the racing is going to stay like this is one I would certainly love to cover one of these days to do that. So that would be really exciting at the same time. So yeah, I thought the broadcast was fine. I didn't have anything that I'd be particularly critical of. I was kind of just having it in the background there. And again, I think that's where it's a good broadcast. I think it's a great broadcast. You remember great moments that sync up perfectly with it. If it's at least a good broadcast, it doesn't take anything away from it. And I thought that was what I had on, what I felt at least on this one. So that's kind of where I am on that. Let's see. You see somebody getting a surprise win before the chase, Billy Noyes. I mean, it's hard to tell. I think it could be a different. It's possible. I mean, now that we still have people that it may be surprising if they don't win. If you've got a guy like Kevin Harvick that's still got a long losing streak here and was favored to maybe do something in this race here. Unfortunately, didn't work out for him there. He would probably at this point feel like a surprise win. I think the level of what a surprise is just going to be, I think that's going to be if we get past that number of 16 different winners. I feel less sure of it now because I think Chastain is on the verge of really completely breaking out and maybe racking up a whole lot more wins here. I mean, this is a racetrack where, again, I don't remember him being any much of a factor for the Chip Ganassi effort, but then there he is right up there. And of course, Larson was good here with Ganassi, won his last race with them. Before he went over to Hendrick, of course. But I think it could be a toss up. That's gonna be kind of the thing I'm gonna be looking at. Larry Mack. I thought he was good. I thought he was fine in the booth. I think Luck pointed this out there that it was good to have him in there and maybe keep him in there on a more consistent basis. I think that would be good. Not everybody, Clint Bowyer is always going to be pretty loud and brash and all that, and I still think he's the weakest of the group. I think Mike was doing a fine job, and he doesn't take himself too seriously during it either. And I thought that when he was trying to do that whole M thing for Monday and Martin Truex, which is clever and it was fine, I thought he was showing enough of a sense of humor about himself to not take that too seriously. Especially, I always find that ones to watch segment just kind of ridiculous anyway, because you could just feature the drivers that are contenders anyway, and you don't have to do that, but. I guess apparently that's what the sponsor is calling for or whatever, so that's kind of where it worked out. Thank you for the super chat there, Beast of Metal, as well. Since I couldn't watch the race live due to work, I don't have thoughts yet except good day, Chase. I'll watch this later, but here's money anyway. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I hope I haven't spoiled too much from you dipping in here, but I do appreciate you checking it out. So, I guess now I look at the screen, and of course the subtitle does that too, but there's other stuff to check out. I definitely recommend you watch this one. So if you're still watching now, definitely check that out. We're kind of transitioning more into the trivia section in there, and we'll do a bit of that as well on the show here today. Let's see here. Yeah, I think Larry McReynolds is much better at the track in the studio. I felt like he was kind of like on the other side of the plexiglass at Talladega, especially during the Talladega car thing, where Clint Bowyer was in the car. I kind of felt that way too, but we'll see what. Hopefully, something else kind of gets worked out in that way. Let's see here. Oh, today's your birthday, Thomas. Oh, happy birthday! Happy birthday, bud. Chase Elliott won his birthday gift from Chase Nation. Well, okay. Well, I'm glad you're happy. Well, absolutely. I mean, hey, been breaking the losing streak and his first win of the year. Hope you have a good one. So thank you. Thank you for spending a little bit of your birthday in the chat here today. I do appreciate it. Let's see. Alex Averos, thank you for the super chat as well. As someone who lives in the New England area, you need to have races here start as soon as possible, or weather could change in 5 minutes here. Yes, thank you so much for bringing that up, and that absolutely needs to be talked about. Noon starts. I'll get on the David Land bandwagon all the way there. If it takes somebody on the West Coast to say that we don't need these races to start at noon our time, then it could be noon Eastern and it could be 9 a.m. just like it was today. And today was fine. It was, again, I think it's great we had the race. We're doing the show here. It's only 1 o'clock here on Pacific time. I mean, if this were on a weekend, it'd be fantastic, and then you still have some time on your weekend to enjoy that there. I think all the races should look at just having a noon starting time. I think if you're on the West Coast, I mean, I don't think it should start at 9 in the morning out here. I think that's to be. I think that's excusable. And I think it's trickier to have. I mean, we don't usually have a lot of races that are at night. Now that the Phoenix races are both during the day, I guess Vegas is the one you really have to look at because that one's going to be late at night there on that end for the chase race. But the championship starting earlier in the day, that works out. But yeah, anything on the East Coast, I have fond memories of getting up and seeing an ESPN race at 9:30 and just starting off the day that way, and so it doesn't take up the entire day. I mean, and I think even if you're somebody that writes for the sport, I think you don't want it to take the entire day either. There's some days where it just gets to be even a grind in that sense, and it's enjoyable. I mean, we enjoy doing it, but I think especially for those of us like myself, where you're kind of juggling this with a 9 to 5, it gets very difficult doing that. That's why I was very adamant about the whole Sunday night race thing, where it wasn't before a recognized holiday. I think that was a terrible idea. I know why they did it for the Bristol Dirt Race, because they wanted to make it look more spectacular at night, maybe not have as much of an issue with the dust, trying something different with Easter. There's a whole lot of stuff juggled up in the air there, but I think that a Saturday race would have been perfectly acceptable. Move things up earlier in the week like they did with the September race, with the traditional night race weekend, and just approach it the same way, and I thought that would have been fine. I still feel the same way about the Mother's Day weekend thing next week. I'm not really crazy about that. I think, have the race on Saturday night, that's fine. And if it gets rain delayed to Sunday, then that happens. But at least in that case, again, you have it on the weekend and you don't have it at Sunday night, hopefully, where it's going to be that sense. So, yeah, I think it would be, have it be at the start of the day. And if it takes somebody on the West Coast to say it, I'll absolutely be saying it. It's like, look, I have no problem getting up earlier to watch a race on Sunday, and we can do our show here earlier in the day, and we can do the articles earlier in the day, and you guys can all still enjoy your weekend. I think it's tricky when you have it this other way, and then of course, yeah, like you mentioned, Alex, the weather changes quickly, and you're going to be in a situation where you're going to have problems, and you're not going to be able to actually be able to get the whole race in, or maybe have it pushed to the next day. And and then this race is a perfect example. Again, they had a great crowd yesterday, good crowd that still stayed back today, and you just can't avoid it in some cases. People can't take time off work for things like that. But I thought there was a good returning crowd, but they had a great crowd yesterday, and it's sad when that happens because there's a lot of people that missed out on what was a great race. I thought that even it had the makings of it even yesterday, but once the sun came out, and the cars were sliding around. That was fantastic, and I think it was thoroughly entertaining. So, and I guess now, does that they're kind of rearranging the schedule, and some of these tracks are losing dates. I think that gets to become even more critical because then they got to wait a whole another year. Maybe that's your one race a year you get to do, or something like that. I think that needs to be, kind of the focus. And I like that SMI has this now, where they have kind of the thing with the weather, where if weather comes up and you can't go to the race, and you're able to put that towards another race, and maybe that'll be a different time of year or a different venue that's still close to you. I mean, both groups kind of own a large number of the tracks, of course. I mean, together they own all of them basically, except for Pocono. But I like that there's inner workings there that are getting there. It's just the TV networks need to really get on the same page and kind of get to that situation where we can have early start times again. I don't think there's any reason that we can't get to that point. So we'll see what that situation is. You tried A Game? No Tires just guessed. I was curious what that was. Strawberry lemonade sounds good, especially now. Yeah, that would be. I haven't tried that at the same time there. Yeah, Formula One races are mostly. Yeah, again, go with the Formula One theme. Back mostly at 10 a.m. Eastern. And the ratings are way up. Well, I think part of that, again, it does seem to be the Drive for Survive show. I know it's got mixed emotions on it because sometimes they get stuff wildly inaccurate or they exaggerate stuff. I mean, that's going to happen when you have any of these Netflix shows. I think some of even NASCAR's programming on there kind of does that too. But, again, but if you're marketing the sport, I think it's a great way to still do that. And yes, this is unofficially Cindric's first last place finish in the Cup Series. Not his first in the top 3 series. He had 2 in that 60 car I mentioned earlier in the Xfinity Series in 2018. So this would be his 3rd overall, so that would be another one. Yeah, 1 p.m. start time per local time. Yeah, something like that. That would be fine. And again, the West Coast races are always going to be later. I mean, Sears Point's always like that. Fontana, Phoenix, Vegas. That's kind of been the traditional way it's gone. But again, there's no reason to have a race on the East Coast start like at noon over here. Like that's ridiculous. But hopefully something will work out on that end. Oh, Billy Noyes, I missed the other part of your question there. You're looking at Justin Haley possibly winning? Yeah, that's possible. I think Reddick, is probably even closer, even though he's had struggles these last couple weeks. I'm waiting for him to get through. I wouldn't be surprised if Austin Dillon got another win. I think the Childress team had a really good start to this year. They've had problems here these last couple weeks, but hopefully they're kind of working those out and they can still keep that advantage going. I think maybe Trackhouse's success or helping them that way or anything with their past technical alliance. Hopefully that works out. But yeah. Yeah. No, but I think that would be another thing to kind of look at there too. Yeah, hopefully we get more entries at Darlington or these other ones. Yeah. Stephen Parsons looks like he's going to have a throwback to his father there with the skull crown paint scheme there. That's going to be really exciting to see. I don't know if that's been revealed yet today. I haven't seen it yet, but I know they showed the door number the other day. And we'll see how that figures out. But yeah, that'll be interesting. Billy Noyes, I saw your question about the Stanton Barrett video. Again, that's attempt to make the Indy 500. That's something I am looking into. I do have a progress update on that. I know it's been a long time since I posted it, and it's been a weekly feature on the show. And then obviously this past week has been challenging here. So I did, however, manage to squeeze in, right before I got sick, actually, I got an interview with David Watson, who was past team owner with Stanton Barrett. Actually, we did end up being a 2-parter. We had like one on Friday. I think it was 2 weeks ago on Friday, and then another one this past Monday. And we had a great conversation. He had a lot of great details there. I'm hoping that that's going to help me get a hold of Stanton finally and get his side of the story once that clears up. And then that'll probably be the next video I get put together here, because I know it's been a while since the Hermie Sadler episode. Once this video's up, you'll see why I've been kind of taking a while on this one here. And I'm glad I took a while because, again, I had Watson characterized completely incorrectly in the rough draft that I wrote over the offseason there because I didn't have that much information. Out of all the teams, I think that was like a really hard one to actually follow. So hopefully we'll get that information in there. There's still a couple of things I'd like to clear up with Stanton to kind of understand because I want to make sure those are correct. And then that'll be a good video there. And then actually the episode after that, I'm hoping to kind of get started on a script for that and hopefully get that going too. What I have been working on more in the meantime is this much larger project. And I have talked about, I'll tease this again because I now mentioned it on the Patreon. The Patreon members are now aware of it at patreon.com/LastCarOnBrock. I appreciate you guys for staying in there. If you guys can't, those of you who are in the Patreon, you're waiting for advance access to videos. I know it's been a while there. If you need to back out of the Patreon there, I totally understand. You don't have to say or anything because I totally get it. I want to try to get some more content for you guys, but it's just been taking a while here. But this next video, this is turned out to be a much larger project, is going to be on the silly season between the 2000 and the 2001 season because there were a ton of stories that took place through there. And I have another angle on that I think is going to really make that video shine. And that turned out to be a much larger project than it turned out. That script is much longer than the broadcast video that I posted earlier this month, or last month rather. But I think that's going to be another good project coming up here. I actually have a trailer that I put together last week. It's still a little bit too early to post it. I think I want to post it closer to when that video is actually finished. But I hope that I'll be pretty close to getting that script recorded and getting that done too. So it's going to be exciting. I think we're going to get some good content here. And once it gets going, we'll have a couple of videos in the chamber there to kind of lock and load and go through those too. So I think it'll be very interesting. And there's a lot of stories I think that are going to be a really entertaining way to kind of present it. Something I was kind of thinking of for a book But again, much like kind of 3 before February, I think worked much more, much better as a video. So again, the 2001 silly season video, the Stanton Barrett video is in the works. I'm looking at doing some standalone driver videos, but those are kind of, I haven't had one that's really caught a lot of traction yet. So we're just kind of in limbo here at this point. But once one of these is ready to record, I'm planning on just throwing everything into just getting that thing edited and up. And whatever video that's going to be, that's going to be the next one up here on the channel. So those of you that are looking for the more produced content, I'm hoping to have more of that going here too. So stay tuned on both the Patreon and my Twitter feed at Last Car on Brock for more information on all of that. So that'll be something to look at. No tires, just gas. Saw your question. Would I rather drive Tony's sprint car or his Indy car? Probably the Indy car, although I think you got to be really exceptional to be driving either of those. I can't imagine putting myself behind the wheel of either of those. I'd be driving at a slower speed, finishing last in either of those, to be perfectly honest. I think the IndyCar drivers are some of the few gladiators that are still out there in terms of motorsports. And those of the people in the sprint cars, I mean, my goodness, they absolutely put everything on the line. So nothing but respect for those guys as well. So we'll have that going. But yeah, more field fillers coming, more standalone projects going, and I think that'll be pretty good. We're going to wrap up the show here probably pretty soon here because I'm still a little rough around the edges here, but I appreciate you guys hanging with me here as we talk about the show here for tonight. We'll go ahead and jump right into our trivia, do a couple questions to wrap up. The categories again are drivers, NASCAR, pits, teams, tracks, drivers, and the wild card. You think I would memorize this by now, but it's just easier to just kind of read it off the screen. NASCAR, pits, teams, tracks, drivers, and the wild card. We'll have you guys kind of go ahead and pick that in the meantime here. I'm going to break away for just a moment, and then we'll do some questions here while you get your categories voted here in the meantime. So just hang in here. I'll be back in just a moment. Okay, we're back. Apologize for that, folks. Just had to take care of the needfuls. Okay, let's jump into it. So, what category do we have here? We'll do a couple questions here for this evening or this afternoon. My goodness, I got to change my whole routine here. So used to what we had here from the other ones. Which category do we have the most votes for here? I'm going to just check this up here at the same time. The unofficial. Oh, okay. Here we go. Let me check this out. Bob Pocker is posting the results. It actually shows Austin Cindric out under the DVP, even though it was a crash, of course, that led to the DVP. Now, this is an interesting rule situation here. So, of course, you know, if you have a driver that's out from a crash, if they actually hit the wall and they can't get the car going, they climb out of the car. If they're out from a crash, if they're in the crash and they pull right behind the wall without fixing it, that's still listed as a crash. Now, if they're able to go on pit road and fix the car and try to beat the clock, and they've at least completed a couple more laps, that seems to be the demarcation where it becomes a DVP. And apparently, in the case of Cindric, he did actually try to complete those laps as we described when he was coming back out there. Even though his time ran out right when he pulled out of his pit stall, it seems like the time running out, you know, isn't necessarily an element of just being listed out under the DVP, because again, you could run out of time in your first attempt to come into pit road, and at that point you're just out from a crash anyway. I mean, that seems to be the case. But DVP seems to be like at least making an attempt to actually get the minimum speed or actually return to the track at some point. And although he was basically out the moment he actually returned to the track, yeah, these unofficial results still show him out under DVP. So this is fascinating. So this is, again, fascinating to me. I mean, this is like kind of, you know, I know at the end of the day, I mean, a DNF is a DNF. But yeah, it lists him out and lists Cody Ware out actually with a DVP as well. So I guess the damage that he had after the Denny Hamlin incident, dropping him out under that. So that will change the statistics here. I know I have to rewrite that already because the race officials still said that he was out under a crash. I believe it was about lap 130. They came over the radio and said, okay, well, wait a minute, he was out accident, which, you know, happened. And it's interesting at the same time because the exact opposite happens. When a driver pulls right behind the wall, they have no hope of fixing the car. You know, the right front is shoved into the firewall and they're getting the car back into the garage area. NASCAR would say, okay, this, you know, 32 behind the wall DVP, and then boom, they're out. But then the results will say it's crash. So clear as mud, I'm sure. That's where it's all over the place. But yeah, so that's kind of the situation. Let's see. So yeah, so how about that? Let's see. Drivers. I see a few for drivers here. Drivers leads with 3. Thank you, Death Killer. Yeah, so that'll probably be the one. So we'll go and just do drivers there. I know we got a smaller group here today, but I do appreciate you guys tuning in. I was expecting maybe we have like 5 people in here for Monday. But I appreciate you guys dropping by here for the show. We'll definitely do our trivia section here to wrap up this evening. No official word, I don't think, from Pockrus's page or otherwise here of the technical inspection. Doesn't look like it. We got the interviews with Stenhouse and with Chastain on the page here. All right, here we go. First question. What was the longest consecutive win streak the King had in his 27-win season? So we're looking for a number here. What was the longest consecutive win streak the King had in his 27-win season? So you don't have to guess the year. You just have to guess the number of wins. What was the most wins he had in a row when he won 27 races in one season? Yeah, the regulars are here and the diehards, exactly. I do appreciate every one of you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in here. This is definitely something I look forward to doing each week. What was the longest consecutive win streak the King had in his 27-win season? Don't look it up. Go ahead and try to guess the answer here, and we'll have that. All right. Chase has tied Leroy Yarborough and Dick Hutcherson for all time. Will we get more than them? Oh, there we go. I hadn't thought of that. The all-time win thing, it would be nice if that was kind of featured more in the broadcast there. I mean, I like that they're talking a lot more. I mean, especially we've got Throwback Week this weekend, so there's going to be more discussion of that. I think it's kind of cool. They're going to have Bill Elliott and Bobby Labonte in the booth there with Richard Petty. I know Richard Petty used to do some older broadcasts, but he's always so quiet, mild mannered. Sometimes it's kind of hard to hear him. It'll be interesting to see how that plays off this time around. He always feels more like a guest in the booth rather than doing a play-by-play thing. And again, it's nothing to say of his driving career or anything else, or certainly not the personality. But some drivers are just like that. Ernie Irvan was like that when he was in the booth. He was very kind of soft-spoken, which is very different from how he raced. So there you go. But yeah, Bobby Labonte and Bill Elliott. Kind of interesting. I'm still not crazy about the comic book character things they do. They made Bobby Labonte look really intimidating, and they made Bill Elliott look kind of confused. So I don't know if that was the look they were going for, but go figure. What was the longest consecutive win streak the King had in his 27-win season? Yeah, I guess for 18 and 7 and 12 and 69. All right, here we go. The answer is 10. 10 is the correct answer. Death Killer, you're all over it. You got it. All right. Next question. Oh, here we go. We got a Darlington question. What Southern 500 winner was the first driver to average over 100 miles per hour? Hey, there's a good question. Good pick on the category, folks. What Southern 500 winner was the first driver to average over 100 miles per hour? Bobby Labonte's birthday is Sunday? Well, hey, how about that? That'll be cool. Maybe that was intentional. What Southern 500 winner was the first driver to average over 100 miles per hour? Don't look it up. Just try to guess. That's two SRX drivers right there. Yeah, exactly. How about that? All right. What Southern 500 winner was the first driver to average over 100 miles per hour? Got to go into hyperspeed for this. There you go. Alrighty, here we go. We got guesses for Rutherford and Jarrett and Baker and Petty. The answer is, oh, this is appropriate, Speedy Thompson. Speedy Thompson is the correct answer. Speedy Thompson is the correct answer. Let's see. Alrighty, next question here. Who won 10 super speedway races in only 15 starts during 1973? Who won 10 super speedway races in only 15 starts during 1973? Yeah, Speedy Thompson. It goes a bit further back than you'd expect. I know a lot of your guesses were kind of in the 60s and 70s. I guess Speedy Thompson sounds more like a late 50s, early 60s. All right, who won 10 super speedway races in only 15 starts during 1973? That is our next one. Yeah, as I mentioned, so we did do a little bit of the Sears Point coverage back on Saturday. There again, I had kind of a lull there where I was still kind of on the fence, but I was like, well, let's make a kind of a quick appearance there. I actually met back up with Derek Cope on that one. We had a nice bit of an interview there. And he is, he's still very much involved in racing. He's working with this Trans Am team, Nitro Motorsports, I believe is the name. They actually finished 3rd and 4th in their main event on Sunday, so congratulations to them on that. What I was interested with speaking with Derek, he was very energized, very excited about working with this team. It's not his own team; it's actually through a family member. His name is Nick Tucker, who operates it. I believe it's a relative through his brother's side, his brother Ernie Cope, who operates JTG Darty Racing. So they have this operation there, and they're he was actually kind of helping him work on the rear end of one of the cars there when we met up with him. But he says it almost feels like it's a Cup Series reunion. Wally Dallenbach was actually one of the people that actually got him interested in actually, running one of these cars. And he's talked with Mike Skinner and Dallenbach, and Paul Menard apparently is involved in this. So apparently, you wonder kind of where some of these other drivers go that aren't active in the Cup Series anymore. Trans Am is probably one place to look, and whether it's an ownership role or a driver. One of the drivers that the Nitro team has, and you're right to bring this up, Death Killer, is actually Corey Heim, who just won the ARCA race the Truck Series race in Atlanta earlier this year. That Corey Heim, they have like an alliance there with Kyle Busch Motorsports. So it was actually very interesting. I hadn't followed Trans Am that closely, but there is kind of a NASCAR influence in there with some of the people that are involved in it. One of the other competitors that was in it was Cameron Lawrence, who was the last place finisher of the first Truck Series race at COTA. Jean-Philippe Dumoulin from the NASCAR Canadian Pinty Series was in that race. If I were feeling better, I would have done a lot more coverage there, but I was just kind of taking it in. We were only there for about a half day before I headed back out on Saturday. But it was exciting to see. So I may do some more stuff with Trans Am further down the line. But in the meantime, Derek Cope is certainly looking to do the same there. So that was good to see. So good to see with him there too. But yeah, that was on that end. Let's see. Who won 10 super speedway races, only 15 starts during 1973? That's the question again there. We got answers for Pearson and Yarborough, Joey Gallo, Chris Evans, Glotzback. Yeah, Michael Self also does them. Yeah, I'm trying to remember who the other guy was. There's another guy who's like a go-kart champion that drives their primary car. They have like the 70 car and the 90 car, the Nitro effort there. So yeah. All right. Who won 10 Super Speedway race and only 15 starts during 1973? The answer is indeed Silver Fox, David Pearson. Billy Noyes, you got that one right off the bat. I don't know if Ernie Francis was there. Good question, Death Killer. I'm not sure. And yeah, I would finish last in every IndyCar race, no tires, just gas. That's for sure. The reason out would probably be interesting from one to the next. But there you go. Excuse me. Alrighty. Well, we're going to wrap up here with one more question here for you guys tonight. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. One more question for you guys here. What driver was fined $5,000 for a bumping match? I thought it said dumping match. A bumping match with Jimmy Spencer in 1997. The first correct answer in weeks. Wow, there you go, man. What driver was fined $5,000 for a bumping match with Jimmy Spencer in 1997? That's your next question. Yes, Roush Racing was big in Trans Am before NASCAR. Absolutely correct to bring that up, Jeremy. For sure. And yeah, some drivers and teams big in Trans Am before they get to NASCAR. So yeah, but the series looks very strong. They had 44 cars in Group the TA2 division that Nitro was in, which was massive. They actually, when they did qualifying, we were just there for the qualifying session before we headed out. But they had like 22 cars in each session and a massive field there. So very cool to see. I mean, that's more cars than you have in the Cup Series now. And that's just from, a week-to-week event. They had a decent turnout, too. There were a good number of people there. I wouldn't say it was a NASCAR crowd, but, I mean, there were enough people there to, be occupied in the trackside stuff that was going on there. And they had some classic cars there, so we got some pictures there. But, yeah, it was much more of a cameo that I was making there for that there, too. And Derek actually gave me some more notes on the latest version of the transcript or the manuscript that I sent over with him. So that was no reason I was there. So we got that. But yeah, I didn't spend too much time there. I just crashed out basically once we got back home after that. What driver was fined $5,000 for a bumping match with Jimmy Spencer in 1997? We got guesses for Smokey Yunick, Michael Waltrip, Jeff Gordon. Let's see, Jeffrey Bodine, Blake Speed. Got the pictures to prove it. Oh, no tires, just gas. There you go. Yeah. If it was somebody different there, Stanley. Okay, we're getting the fun answers here, so we're probably getting down to the nitty gritty. What driver was fined $5,000 for a bumping match with Jimmy Spencer in 1997? The answer is Jeff Bodine, Billy Noyes. You got two of them. You got two answers there. There you go. You are correct. Jeffrey Robertson, you guessed Bodine as well. Jeremy, you got it as well. So there you go. Jeff Bodine. So that is, I think that'll be it for the show this week here. Hopefully things will be a little bit more streamlined next week. I do appreciate you guys bearing with me here. But yeah, no fever. I can definitely assure you that. Definitely, we're doing okay. Just get over this cold here, and it'll be much more fresh for our show next week, which is going to be for Darlington and the Throwback Weekend, the Modern 500, as I like to call it. Will be an interesting one for next week. Will Chase Elliott go 2 in a row, or will Austin Cindric go 2 in a row in last place at the most recent track that he finished last in the Xfinity Series? Hard to say, but it'll be some interesting storylines. Entry list storylines article coming up later this week. But again, pending post-race inspection, congratulations to Chase Elliott for his first win this year, and to Austin Cindric, unfortunately getting his first last place finish. If you are interested in more content on this channel, definitely check that out here. My Twitter feed at LastCarOnBrock. The website is lastcar.info. Pending, of course, inspection. It'll be an Austin Cindric article later tonight. Let me check the page once more here just to make sure. Okay, Pockrass has posted owner points here, so no other updates I don't see. Okay, so that'll be it on that. So we'll stay tuned here, I guess, after the fact here on what's going on with inspection, but in the meantime, we'll catch up from there. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time. So have a safe week, everyone.